Have you ever gone to a wedding or a fancy kind of event and over in the corner near the head table or in some location that's going to catch your eye, you see all of these champagne glasses stacked up into a pyramid, and at some time during the event, someone goes to pour the champagne from the top, and the champagne trickles over and bubbles down until finally all of the glasses are full. Well, today here on the podcast, we're going to talk about how your content works the same way. Welcome to the Amplify Your Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Yang Pratt, and I'm here to help you breathe new life into the content you have already created. As a business owner, as a content marketer, as a content creator, you likely have a vault of content that exists where you've created something once or maybe twice and you've promoted it a couple times, but then it goes into the archives where it kind of dies a slow, painful death. Well, my friends, it is time to resurrect that content and it is time to breathe new life into it. And here on the podcast, we're going to give you some quick tips and tricks and ways that you can do just that. So let's talk about how your content is exactly the same as this champagne fountain, where someone pours champagne from the top and it trickles down. So in this case, at the top, this champagne is your content. And there's endless supplies. There's cases and cases of this in the reserves inside of you, right? And there's likely reserves that are sitting in your archives somewhere that we could probably dust off and revitalize and reuse again. Yes. But let's talk about this idea of the content flow, because we're starting with one glass. You fill one glass. You have one thing. And let's say your thing is you like to write blog posts. That's your jam. For me, I love to do these videos and turn them into podcasts. So really, for me, doing videos is my jam, right? Because I like to take these videos and turn them into audios and turn them into blog posts. And that's exactly what this content flow is like for you. You have your one glass at the top, one central glass. From there, it can spill over to the next level. Maybe the next layer looks like video content. Maybe the next layer after that is audio content for a podcast. And after that, we have some graphic content. And from there, we can take all of that and do all sorts of things with it. We can pull out little quotes. We can pull out things that you want your audience to remember that are poignant. There's so many ways to slice and dice that one piece of content. We have that content, right? If you even just were to take that piece of content, that blog post, and put it into little mini bite-sized lessons. How cool is that? Little quotes or little memes that you can create. And from there, you can grow and grow and grow. For me, what happens in my content workflow is that I start with a video, almost always. From there, I'm going to extract the audio from it, and I use an awesome tool called repurpose.io, and you can find out more about repurpose at youngpratt.com/repurpose. You can get a trial of the software that I absolutely adore and I use every single day because it does so many things for me. Once I have pulled out the audio, or repurpose extracts the audio for me from this video, it's going to go over on the podcast. From there, I can chop the video and the audio into little bite-sized pieces and use it in places like IGTV or in my stories. There's lots of applications. I can post things over on Twitter. I can post things over on LinkedIn. But you see how the one piece of content flows down. I have one central core thing that I create consistently. And then from there, it kind of flows into the next thing. So after we have created the audio or repurposed, it pulls out the audio for me and it slices and dices the content into little pieces for different platforms from me. I'll go and transcribe the video, right? And that gives me a blog post. So it doesn't have to be so hard to create a blog these days. There are lots of tools that you can do that with. And I actually have a little mini class for you if you're interested called Blog Your Podcast. So if you're like me and you have a podcast, I'm going to show you how you can quickly use some tools to turn it into a blog post. Bada bing, bada boom, and it's automated. It is super cool. If you're a WordPress user, it kind of is a must-have for things that you need. After we transcribe it, we can pull out some quotes. We can pull out ahas. We can create those as visual graphics. And one of my favorite places to do that is Canva, Canva.com. It's free to start. I have the paid version. I love it because I'm able to resize pretty quickly and do some other cool things that I wouldn't be able to do without it. So I can bypass a couple of the extra manual steps, if that makes sense. And as far as the transcription of this video / podcast goes, my favorite is Otter, OTTER.ai. It is a real-time transcription service that is free up to 600 minutes a month. I love me some free tools. What about you? And I will typically upload this podcast episode or the audio into Otter, and it will turn it into a transcript for me. Is it 100% perfect? Absolutely not. For me, it's about 90-ish% perfect, which is better than most of the other tools I've used. And I've used a lot of transcription tools. So I love it. And plus it's free. I can use it on my desktop. I can also use it on my mobile device, which is fantastic. If you aren't already using it, I would definitely recommend that. I use it for lots of things other than content creation. I'm sure you can visualize. We may have to do a podcast episode just on Otter and all the applications, like these little life hacks that you can do with this tool. The other thing that I love about Otter is that when I'm on the go, I can take the app with me and I can speak things into existence, meaning it's talk to text. As I am talking into my device or into my computer, it's transcribing it in real time. So you can do real-time transcriptions, or if you want to do something after the fact, you upload it into Otter and it goes to work for you. And at the end, you have this beautiful transcript, which you can put onto your website as a blog post. You may want to clean it up and add some titles, or if you want to have a full transcription, I usually add the full thing underneath my content. So in case somebody wants to read it verbatim, they learn best by reading. I want to make sure I'm providing those things. So let's go back and kind of recap this. So your content is just like the champagne being poured over this mountain or this tower of glasses. You start with one thing, but soon your content spills over into the next thing. And then to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It's kind of a never-ending flow, and there's no shortage of content or the champagne, right? There's no shortage of that because it all comes from within you. Every day you're creating, once a week you're creating, but you're creating content to attract the ideal customers and ideal clients and get them to connect with you and get to know, like, and trust you, right? That's why we are content marketing. That's why we're using things like blogs and podcasts and videos, because those things are the pull marketing, right? We're pulling people towards us. We're not pushing things at them, right? We're pulling them because we're giving them a way to really find out more about us, find out if they like the way we work, find out if they believe the same things we believe. Are our values the same? Is it going to be a good fit if we work together, right? People make snap judgments about content and people all the time, right? Just kind of human nature. But if you can give your audience content, not just in one form, because it's kind of old school, right? Kind of 1990-ish marketing, right? You print a white paper and then you put the white paper everywhere and that is it. But now you can take that one thing, the white paper or the blog, and turn it into a podcast. You can turn it into a video. You can turn it into graphics. You can turn it into little bite-sized segments of audio and video. There are so many ways to slice and dice it, where it really could become you create one great piece of content and you can have a month's worth of little snippets to share on multiple platforms so that you can meet your clients where they like to hang out. Because in all honesty, I'm not a huge fan of Twitter. It moves really fast and it's like content overload for me. It's like too much information. So I don't tend to hang out there. But I do know people that would be my ideal clients who hang out there. So I am attempting to be there more often, and repurpose does help me create the content. I just haven't pushed the button to make it go there in an automated way because that's not quite what I'm looking for right now. But that's sort of an aside, right? We can dive into all these bits and pieces and all the different platforms on future podcasts. But I wanted you today to think about this. I want you to think about your content as champagne. It's bubbly, it's sweet, people like it, and people typically pull it out for celebrations. And if you're creating content, that's a celebration. You're taking your ideas and you're taking them from here and putting them on paper, on video, you're sharing them. So all the little content pieces are the little bubbles going everywhere. And we can get those bubbles to flow to different places to reach people where they are. That's the coolest thing about this idea of repurposing your content. So think about your content as champagne. Number one, celebrate it. Number two, I want you to think about how else could you spin your content? How else could you use it that could reach people in a different way? If you have text, can you make a video? If you have video, can you get the text? If you have a podcast, can you have a video? Right? There's so many overlaps between these. And then I want you to come over to Instagram. Take a screenshot of this podcast on your phone and tag me over on Instagram at Amplify Your Awesome. I want to hear about your ideas. I want to hear about if this idea of your content as champagne resonates with you, because as I've been thinking about how to share with people what it is that I do, that was one of the first images that popped into my head was this champagne fountain. You know, the champagne flowing from one level to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And there was no shortage because there's reserves in the back, right? I want to know if this helps you. And I want to know if you have content that has died a slow, painful death. You've locked it away someplace. And after this podcast, you think, oh yeah, I created that awesome thing. It's still relevant to my people now. How can I reshare it? How can I repurpose it? How can I give it some CPR so that I can breathe new life into it to reach more of my people? All right, my friends, head over to Instagram, tag me at Amplify Your Awesome. I want to hear your thoughts about this episode. Until next time, I wish you an amazing day. Cheers.